Hello friends, in this video we are going to discover the top 10 fastest growing states in America. Feeling a little crowded? Late to work more often? Sick of the long lines at the grocery store? Well, then you might live in a part of America that's getting too crowded. The population of the United States increased by more than 2 million people last year. Natural growth, meaning people being born versus people dying, accounted for most of the population increase in America, while only a small part of our nation's growth was due to immigration. Across individual states, population growth was far from even. Some states are growing fast and some states are actually shrinking. And it's regional, too. While populations in the South and West are growing, the Northeast and Midwest are not. Everyone thinks that they want to live in California. What with the beautiful beaches, weather, and people? But, and there's always a but, no one thinks of all the negatives when they dream of California. There are too many people already there, it's insanely expensive, and the weather doesn't actually impact your happiness all that much. The result is that California places as the 28th fastest growing state in the country. In order to determine the fastest growing states, we simply had to measure the populations of each state from 2010 until now. As we'll see, some of these states might be surprisingly quickly growing, and some that you think are getting way too overcrowded actually aren't growing that much at all. Kindly make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon before we start this video about the 10 fastest growing states in America. Now let's dig deeper into each of the top 10 fastest growing states in America. Number 10 on the list of fastest growing states in America is South Carolina. South Carolina doesn't seem like a place that's growing that fast, and maybe that's why it ranks 10th on the list, just barely breaking onto the fastest growing for 2023. It might also have to do with the lack of one really big city in the state. North Carolina neighbors to the north have Charlotte and Raleigh. There's Atlanta to the south. But South Carolina's largest city? Charleston, at about 135,000 people, ranks only in the top 200 to 300 biggest in the country. So, it doesn't have any big city name recognition. That being said, it's easy to see why people would want to live in South Carolina. Its central location on the East Coast provides easy access to the big cities mentioned, it has a ton of beaches, and the weather is about as moderate as you can get in the US. So, it's a great place to live with plenty to see and do. Number 9 on the list of fastest growing states in America is Arizona. Arizona's population grew by 13.54%, more than twice the national population growth rate. Much of Arizona's growth was due to new residents migrating to the state. Arizona is the fourth most popular place where other Americans are moving to. For the third year in a row, Maricopa County led the way of all U.S. counties for population growth. This includes cities like Phoenix, Mesa, Chandler, Scottsdale, Tempe, and Glendale. Americans move for economic and educational opportunities as well as quality of life factors such as a warm climate and cost of living. Arizona meets those criteria, it's relatively affordable, its mid-sized cities have decent school systems, and there are a decent number of jobs here. Arizona is just one example of how there are simply more Americans moving from the Northeast and Midwest to the South and West. Number 8 on the list of fastest growing states in America is Washington. Washington's population has increased by 14.76% since the last decade. Washington's strong population growth has been accompanied by a substantial increase in GDP, which has grown at an average rate of 2.2% a year, the fourth fastest pace of any U.S. state. Washington's information sector, which includes industry giants Microsoft, Amazon, and Expedia, grew faster than in any other state other than Pennsylvania over that period. Washington is also one of 3 states on this list with the highest international growth. Meaning a lot of people are moving to Washington from other countries. Did you know Seattle has been the nation's fastest growing city in America for 5 straight years? Number 7 on the list of fastest growing states in America is North Dakota. North Dakota's population has surged nearly 14.89% since the turn of the last decade, which is far and above everyone else. When I was a kid growing up, my grandpa Lou used to tell me I was growing so fast, he'd have to put a brick on my head. North Dakota needs a brick on their head. Most of or part of that reason has been the huge uptick in the number of blue-collar jobs here. particularly the oil and natural gas boom. People have come from all over to enjoy amazing pay, low cost of living, and a sense of purpose. Then, when the gig is up, they stick around and enjoy the state's freedoms like legal gambling. Because of all the drilling profits, the state picks up the tab for a lot of stuff, so taxes are low. And college kids who graduate around these parts are actually not fleeing North Dakota like they used to. So, now it's cool to live in North Dakota? Number 6 on the list of fastest growing states in America is Colorado. Alright, one more trip out west for a couple more stops. This time, we park it in Colorado, where the population has grown 15.12% since 2010. A net influx of 763,425 Americans relocated to Colorado since 2010. The population growth occurred alongside a steep decline in unemployment, too. Just 3.3% of the Colorado labor force is unemployed, tied with Vermont as the 6th lowest unemployment rate of any state. This somewhat interesting summary pointed out that Denver has the 4th most cranes of any other city. It also states that people are moving here for the mountain scenery. Number 5 on the list of fastest growing states in America is Florida. We are heading east for the first time in a long time. This time, we go to the always talked about state of Florida, where the population has grown 15.56%. In 2014, Florida overtook New York as the 3rd most populous state in the country. Like many of the fastest growing states, Florida's rapid population growth was largely due to migration. About 9 in every 10 new Floridians either moved to the state from elsewhere in the United States or from another country. More people move from New York to Florida than any other state. Of course, there are many reasons why Florida is such a popular destination for Americans to move to. It's hot, too hot actually, taxes are very favorable, there's a ton to do, and the economy's great. Number 4 on the list of fastest growing states in America is Nevada. Nevada's population has grown at a very high clip of 16.3%. Also, partly due to, let's say it together, California rejects. Nevada grew by 0.0096080002% last year alone, so its population's surging. If we only measured very recent population growth numbers, Nevada would be towards the top. Despite Nevada's booming population, its economy has shrunk though. Its entertainment, arts and recreational sectors have gone down, and that's bad, since Nevada relies on those things the most. But hospitals and schools are opening up at a very fast rate here. Nevada is also towards the top of the states in today's video in terms of international growth. The desert has become an oasis for both immigrants and younger progressives who want stuff like legal green stuff and liberal politics. Number 3 on the list of fastest growing states in America is Texas. Time to tussle in the great state of Texas. Here, the population has grown 16.97%, which is just massive. But it's a big state, they can handle it, because everything's big in Texas, right? It makes sense considering that 5 of the nation's 15 fastest growing cities are all in Texas. But why? Blue-collar jobs. Oil. Cheap rent. Cheap land. Low taxes. Diversity. Family values. Good weather. There's no attitude, and most people are friendly. The rules are less strict here, and well, once you're a Texan, you stick around, as they say. It's also a major destination of our growing Hispanic community, which is growing faster than any other race, although somewhat slower of late. In case you didn't know, the Hispanic population isn't growing as fast as it once was. Of course, all of this is putting a strain on Texas infrastructure. Roads are clogged, schools are overcrowded, and, well, they're even running out of tacos. Number 2 on the list of fastest growing states in America is Utah. Utah is growing like a weed. It's the fastest growing state over the last 5 years, where the population has grown nearly 3 times the national average. Unlike most fast growing states, the majority of Utah's population increase wasn't because people moved there. It's due to natural growth. That means babies. Lots and lots of babies. Utah has the largest average family size in the country, and coincidentally, the highest Mormon population of all. But is it a stereotype that Mormons have a lot of babies? No, it's true. Mormons make up nearly 2/3 of the state's population, and the Mormon population typically has 3.4 kids at home, while the average American family has 2.1 kids at home. Utah is also a very healthy state. So, when you have the highest birth rate and the lowest death rate of any other state, you're gonna grow, just organically. Number 1 on the list of fastest growing states in America is Idaho. Yes, Idaho. Here in Idaho, the population has grown a very rapid 21% since 2010. But the people in Idaho will tell you, Idaho's closed. Now, let's compare Idaho's growth rate to that of America's slowest growing state, West Virginia. Actually, West Virginia is going backwards. The mountain state has lost 1% of its state population in the same time frame. To put that into perspective, the next slowest growing state is Vermont, which has lost 0.25% of its population. So, West Virginia is by far the state that's losing the most people. Back to Idaho, it's the opposite here. Idaho has a relatively high birth rate, and a third of its new residents moved to the potato state. Another interesting note, Idaho's population growth has coincided with a big decline in unemployment, too. Not sure what types of jobs you do in Idaho, but there are plenty of them. Sorry, Idaho. Secrets out. So, which is your favorite places among the top 10 fastest growing states in America? Well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content of this video, click the subscribe button so you can receive more content like this. Post your favorite places among the top 10 fastest growing states in America in the comments below. I'd love to read them, and I'm sure others would too.